My book is a tale dark and grim. Boom, boom, boom. This book is about Hansel and Gretel going through a whole bunch of fairy tales and looking for the perfect parents because they found out that their original parents had cut their heads off, then put them back on. And then they went through a whole bunch of fairy tales, like they went through, come on, please stop. They went through the Seven Swallows story. They went through the original Hansel and Gretel story, and a whole bunch of other fairy tales looking for the perfect parents, which they never find until they go back to their parents at the end of the book. That's how the story goes. I have to say that the genre of the book is fantasy plus gore. I love this book in every way because it kind of relates to me. I will be reading the very, very, very beginning of it. It's not as long as all these chapters are. So, once upon a time, fairy tales were awesome. I know, you don't believe me. I don't blame you. A little while ago, I wouldn't have believed in myself. Little girls in red caps skipping around the forest. Awesome? I don't think so. But then I started reading them. The real grim ones. Very few little girls in red caps, though. Well, there's one, but she gets in. Okay, you're probably saying, if fairy tales are awesome, why are all the ones I've heard so unbelievably mind-numbingly boring? You know how it is with stories. Someone tells a story, then someone repeats it, and it changes. Someone else repeats it, and it changes again. Then someone's telling it to their kids, and taking out all the scary bloody scenes, in other words, the awesome parts. And the next thing you know, the story is about an adorable little girl in a red cap skipping through the forest to take cookies to her granny. And you're so bored, you've passed out on the floor. The real grim stories are not like that. Take Hansel and Gretel, for example. Two greedy little children trying to eat a witch's house, so she decides to cook them and eat them instead. Which is fair, it seems to me, but before she can follow through on her perfectly reasonable plan, they lock her in an oven and bake her to death. Which is pretty cool, you have to admit it. But maybe it's not awesome. Except, here's the thing. That's not the real story of Hansel and Gretel. You see, there's another story in Grimm's fairy tales. A story that winds all throughout the moldy, mysterious tomb. Like a trail of breadcrumbs winding through a forest. It appears in tales you may never have heard, like Faithful Johans and Brother and Sister. In some you have, Hansel and Gretel, for instance. It's the story of two children, a girl named Gretel and a boy named Hansel, traveling through a magical and terrifying world. It is the story of two children striving and failing, then not failing. It's the story of two children finding out the meaning of things. Before I go on, a word of warning. Grim stories, the ones that weren't changed for little kids, are violent and bloody. And what you're about to hear is one true tale in the tales of Grimm. Is as violent as bloody as you can imagine. So if such things bother you, you should probably stop right now. You see, the land of Grimm can be a harrowing place, but it is worth exploring. For in life, it is the darkest zones finds the brightest beauty and most luminous wisdom. Of course, the most blood. Dun dun dun. If I had to give this book a star rating, I'd probably give it maybe a 4 out of 5. Mainly because of the fact that I love the story it's being told. I just don't like the constant kind of interruptions by the author saying, kind of like trying to relate to the character. I mean, not the character, the reader. And it kind of interrupts the story. And it kind of bothers me because I just want to read the story, not what the author thinks about it. So yeah. First question for me is, in one word, what is this book about? I would say that this book is about, I have to choose one word as well. I would say it's about curiosity. Mainly because of the fact that they're so curious and so venturous that they want to go and see if there's anyone out there that can take care of them and not hurt them. And I think curiosity sums kind of all of that up, so then they know that, because they're really curious if there's anyone out there like that towards the middle of the story and towards the beginning. In the beginning and middle, they're more curious than ever. My second question is, which character would be your best friend? I would have to say my favorite, the character that would be my best friend is probably Hansel, because Hansel is reckless. He doesn't care about whatever happens. He just wants to go on and do what he does, like all teenagers do. But you know, I kind of get along with him. I connect with Hansel. He and I have a lot in common. Which character would be your enemy? I would have to say probably the devil. The devil would probably be my enemy because all he does is inflict pain. Like, Hansel gets thrown in liquid fire and is sent to the devil's house because he doesn't scream. It's awful. Like, that is your punishment if you go to hell. You burn in liquid fire for all of eternity. And yeah, I think the devil would be my enemy because I don't think I would burn people in liquid fire. I just disagree with his morals. Did the book fulfill your expectations of it? I believe it did, because I expected awesome, because it says on the front cover, once upon a time, fairy tales were awesome. And I expected awesome, and I got awesome. Awesome is exactly what they achieved with this book, except for the little author just snippets, which kind of bothered me. Other than that, it was awesome, and I loved it. What themes does the author explore? Does the author use symbols to reinforce the main ideas? I believe that the themes are maybe immaturity and childlike wonder, because they are always... Hansel's not really mature. He's a guy. What do you expect? He's not mature. He won't be mature until towards the end of the book. But they're both expecting so much out of all of these adults that they find. But they're not perfect. No one's perfect. And if someone were perfect, then... well, if everyone was perfect, then what society would we have? We wouldn't have all the things that we have. And I believe that immaturity kind of goes under there, and also a lot of other things. I believe that this book also, another theme is that everybody makes mistakes, and what I just said kind of goes with that. So, what are you going to remember most about this book? Why? What are the most important scenes? Well, what I'm going to remember most about this book is how bloody and gory it is. It is kind of my thing. I love bloody and gory books. They make me happy in life. And I'm just going to remember all the blood and gore. The most important scenes to me are when they, at the very beginning of the book, before the children were born, when he when Faithful Johans heard the ravens saying that if someone didn't kill the chestnut stallion that the king was going to get on after he got off the boat, he was going to die. And then if he didn't burn the wedding dress, and that the princess was going to die. And at the wedding dance, if someone didn't bite the princess's lip and take 3 drops of blood out of her lip, she would have died. And if he had said anything about that, he would have turned to stone. I think that's a very important scene because it affects the rest of the book. Like, the king cuts off their children's heads so then he could bring Faithful Johans to life. And then Faithful Johans helps Gretel out of hell and get to hell in general. And he helps throughout the whole book, and then he dies, which makes me sad. But, yeah. And the last question is, what type of reader would enjoy this book? I believe that maybe all type of readers will enjoy this book. Maybe readers that like kind of horror movies or being adventurous. It kind of gives them ideas, and that's not a good thing, but this book I would recommend it to a lot of people because it's a very fascinating book for me. And yeah.